Hey everyone, James Lynch here doing a quick reaction video to the news that Mike Malott will take on Gilbert Burns in the main event of UFC Winnipeg. That's right, not UFC Ottawa. They have decided to move to Winnipeg to do this event, April 18th, same date. But really good fight for the Canadian fans. It's been a while since they've had a Canadian fighter headline a UFC card. And, I think this is a fight that kind of makes sense for both guys. Malott is someone they've been trying to build up for a while here in Canada. And Gilbert Burns is, decent name, former title challenger, someone that is well-known in the division. And I think this works out well for both sides as far as the matchmaking goes. Now, I don't know why they moved this event from Ottawa to Winnipeg. Adam Martin was the first one who had this, by the way. Good to see outlets like Junkie and others actually credit Adam. There's a few other accounts, which I will not mention on here, that claimed it was their own news. I'm not a fan of that, but Adam Martin had this 17 hours ago, saying that the Canada card was moved to Ottawa, from Ottawa to Winnipeg. Winnipeg has not had previously held UFC 161 in Winnipeg. Their last event was 2017. We'll talk about that event in a sec, but let's first talk about the matchup between Burns and Malott. Mike Malott, of course, coming off that win over Kevin Holland. It was a close one. Some people felt like maybe that one could have gone the other way. It was a very close fight. Actually, I'm going to go look at the scorecards on that one and MMA decisions. I don't know if people scored that for Holland, but it was close. I remember watching that going, I don't know if Mike will get it. And of course, it was in Vancouver, so that was one where some people felt like, okay, so majority of media did feel like Malott won that, most having it 29-28. So Malott getting the win in his last fight. So he kind of passed that veterans test in the last fight. Of course, his only loss was that one against Neil Magny, where he was winning the fight in Toronto and then obviously got choked out late in that one. That was back in 2024, but 3 straight wins now, 2 decisions in that run right now. The Kevin Holland fight probably, is the biggest win that he's had so far. And then also got that knockout win over Charles Radke last year too. So good year there for Mike Malott as he now squares off with Gilbert Burns. If we do a quick tail of the tape here, you can see Malott is 34 years old, 6'1" with the 73-inch reach. Gilbert Burns, I want to say, is close to 40. Or at least in that range. So Malott's not that much younger, right? If we're kind of talking about it, they're 22-9 for Malott. He's 39. So again, if my math's correct here, about a 5-year difference between the two fighters. And Burns is on a bit of a skid here, losing 3 in a row. But you got to look at the opposition he's facing here. Michael Morales. We just saw him knock out Sean Brady. Burns gets knocked out by him. He loses as well to Sean Brady. Jack Della Maddalena getting finished in the 3rd round when I thought Burns actually had a strong start in that one. And then obviously lost to Bilal Muhammad as well back in 2023. So he's going to be looking for his first win since April of 2023. We'll see how much gas is left in the tank. Of course, most of Burns' wins coming by submission, 9 total. He's also got 6 knockouts, but he himself has been knocked out 4 times. And Mike Malott, you can see here, does boast 5 wins by knockout, but he also has 6 submission wins as well. With Malott, it's the same story. Either it's like an early finish or it's a decision for him. We'll see how this one goes. Again, you do have to look at Burns being, knocked out in 2 of his last 3 fights, but these are against really good opposition. And Della Maddalena, who's a former champion, and Michael Morales, who has yet to lose and is a very dangerous threat in that weight class. So as far as I know right now, I know there were some other fights added to that card as well too. I know Mitch Raposo was on the, I guess now Winnipeg card. So let's go have a look and see. They haven't updated it here on Tapology, but I know there were some other fights that were added to the Ottawa card. I know Jasmine Jezavicius, his teammate, I believe was fighting Carney Silva as well in this event. So it'll probably be your typical Canadian fight night card, which is they will have a number of Canadian fighters and they'll throw in a couple fun matchups. Like we look at the Vancouver card, that was actually a pretty solid event. You had DeRitter and Allen, you had Holland and Malott. What else was on that card? There was a couple good notable names on there. Cheeto Vera was on that card against Ayman Zahabi. So they do quite well in Canada as far as the fights they put together. Jourdain was on that card. I imagine he'll be on there. Actually, I think Jourdain, didn't they have some fight for him anyways, if I'm not remembering off the top of my head? So it'll be sort of, I think, a mix of Canadian fighters with a couple like notable names on the card as well. That's typically how they've done things before. And yeah, good to see Winnipeg get a card because like I said, it's been a while. This is the last time they had an event. It was the Lawler Dos Anjos card, which I have no memory of. I don't know why. Again, I don't remember every card, but you had RDA defeating Lawler. You had Josh Emmett knocking out Ricardo Lamas. Mike Perry was still in the UFC. He lost to Santiago Ponzinibbio. You had Glover Teixeira and Misha Serkinov, where Glover beat him in the 1st round. Jan Blachowicz was on the undercard against Jared Cannonier. Still had Julian Marquez in the UFC. Chad Laprise, there's a name I haven't heard in a while. I think he's a cop now. John McDessie. And then you also had opening the card was Jordan Mean taking on Eric Silva. By the way, Jordan Mean still competing at his age, which is very interesting. So good to see them get an event back. I feel bad for Ottawa. Ottawa's a great city. I actually was considering maybe going out there for that card in Ottawa. Will not be going to Winnipeg. That's not nothing against Winnipeg, but that's a little bit far for me. to go cover an event. It's not very close. Actually, let me even look up right now how long that is from where I live. It is a... how long is that flight? Oh, it's only 2 hours and 50 minutes, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to head out to Winnipeg. Ottawa's a little bit actually farther for me, but Ottawa's a pretty nice city. Lots to do there and all that. Winnipeg, you know, there's a few things to do there, but maybe not the most notable city. And nothing against people of Winnipeg. I got a couple of really good friends that live out in Winnipeg, but not my first choice of a city I'd want to visit in Canada. But yeah, let's you know, kind of talking about the matchup itself between Burns and Malott. Again, I mentioned the age difference. I do need to mention the height and reach in this one. So again, Malott 34, 6'1" with a 73-inch reach. Gilbert Burns is 5'10" with a 71-inch reach. So Malott going to be a little bit taller here. He's 6'1" with a 73-inch reach. Is he 6'1"? I guess he's, because that would be taller than me. I'm trying to remember when I've seen Malott in person. I feel like, yeah, maybe he's taller than me. Not by much, though. He's 6'1", I'm 6 feet tall. So yeah, Malott is, like I said, a little bit bigger here. I think the big question is, I mean, with this being a 5-round fight, is that cardio going to be a thing for Mike Malott? That's one thing he has not had, is a 5-round fight. Gilbert Burns has, but also Gilbert Burns a little bit older. I would say this. I think this is kind of an obvious kind of prediction for this fight right now. If the fight goes past like round 3, I would think Burns has an advantage, but the fact that he's done the 5 rounds before. I think there is still some questions about Mike Malott's cardio, although he didn't have an issue against Kevin Holland in his last fight. He certainly went the distance with him, but this is a 5-round fight, not a 3-round fight. What do I think most likely is going to happen? I think Mike Malott can knock out Gilbert Burns. We've seen him knock out Charles Radke. We saw him knock out Mickey Gall. Again, not the best opposition of guys that he's knocked out, but I don't know what the stats are right now on fighters over 35, but when they get knocked out a few times, it's tough to come back from that. And I actually am going to go quickly look at Gilbert Burns' striking defense stats right here. If they're below 50, that's not good. Okay, so he's 52%, so he doesn't get hit that much. Certainly got to be worried about that. It could absolutely be like, I could absolutely, if you're just kind of thinking out loud here, I could see a Malott early finish, first or second round. That's probably where I'm going to be leaning on this fight. Again, I'll do maybe a preview of this for early look. But I think Gilbert Burns by submission might be worth a stab too, just with the fact that Burns has got a good ground game. He's got 9 wins by submission. We know how decorated he is in that regard, and he could potentially submit Malott later in the fight. So I think it's Gilbert Burns submission, Mike Malott knockout. Might also see a decision here, but that's kind of the way I'm leaning on this one. So again, good main event. Aaron Bronstetter pointed out that I think the last time we had a Canadian headlining a UFC card was the Felicia Spencer-Amanda Nunes fight, which I think was in Edmonton. So it's been a while. That was during the pandemic. I remember I was supposed to go to that event, but I had to do commentary that night for Rise FC back when that promotion was running. So when was that card? That was in, yeah, UFC 250. So 2020. So it's been 6 years. Yeah, that was the last time I think a Canadian headlined a card, and that was a pay-per-view. This is just a fight night. So again, like the main event, good job on the UFC for putting this one together. We'll keep an eye on what other Canadians will be added to this card. Sorry, fans of Ottawa, but fans of Winnipeg, you got to be happy about this one. I think a good start to this card, April 18th in Winnipeg. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What fights do you think will be added to this card? What's your early prediction for Gilbert Burns and Mike Malott? Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. My name is James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.